reconnect. Reconnect. Sometimes you need to reconnect. But it's This Week in Science right now. I hope you're reconnecting with us and the science that we love to bring. Hello, Blair.
Hi.
Hello, audience out there. This is the live broadcast of the TWIS podcast, and we are here to talk about some pretty awesome science news from the past week. And as you should know, if you have joined us for the live show previously, who knows what's going to happen while we're here? Who knows? Anyway, some of it will be edited, possibly. Or maybe Blair and I, the two of us together, can hit that tight 90.
I think so.
Life goals.
Can we stretch it to 90 is really my question.
No. Let's see. This program.
I feel like last time Justin was gone, we did like a cool 78. Like, yes. Oh no.
We will have so much to talk about. Or not. We're going to try. We do hope that we entertain you with the science news and the conversation. It's live, it's live, it's live. And yes, Daniel Yount, let the science commence. So let's start this show in a 3, a 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 851, recorded on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. What would you call it? Hey, everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we are going to fill your head with controversy, disruption, and cats. But first, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. Mayor's notes and antidotes and little lies be flying. Keep your eyes peeled, dear friends. The facts are being checked on the daily, but you need to be your own fact checker. Just because you want to believe doesn't mean you should believe. Not even when you're listening to This Week in Science, coming up next. And you know what? I didn't even get my music queued up. I was busily writing a disclaimer because we don't have a Justin tonight. But here we go.
3, 2, 1, go.
Coming up next. No, what is going on? Now it won't even work. Jeez. Okay, hold on. Take 3.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I wanna learn everything. I wanna fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I wanna know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Blair. Tonight, we don't have a Justin, but we're here because the science never quits. We're here to talk about it. And it was a good week, was it not?
It was. Lots of good science news this week.
Lots of great science news. And everyone, happy day of science. I do hope everyone is looking forward to a great show. Thank you all for joining us. The show ahead tonight. What do we have? I have stories. I mentioned a disruption. It's a bacterial disruption. I've also got cocoons filled with fish and grandmother brains. It's going to be so much fun. What'd you bring, delicious. Blair? What's in the animal corner?
Delicious grandmother brains. I have a telescope controversy. And then in the animal corner, I made it a little beefier today because Justin's not here. So I have orangutans, cats, and corals.
And corals. Cats and corals, not cats in corals.
No, it's 3 separate stories. They are not related. Do not picture an orangutan holding a cat in a coral reef. That is not what this is about.
That is not what this is about. But we're going to find out about all of it in just a moment. So let's jump into the show. But right before we do, I need to let you know that if you are not yet subscribed to This Week in Science, you can find us all places podcasts are found. Look for This Week in Science TWIS. You can also find us on Facebook, on YouTube. We're on Twitch as TWIS Science. We're also TWIS Science on Instagram and Twitter. We're all over the place. But if you get confused, you can find our website at twis.org. All right, let's start with some natural cures.
For
Sometimes the word natural has really kind of gotten this kind of woo meaning to it because of some areas of medicine, kind of medicine. But it's a natural food or food, unnatural food? I don't know. I'm going to eat it. That's natural enough for me. But anyway,
are you going to cure my lack of essential oils? Is
Right.
that what you're going to cure today?
Exactly. But that's not what this is about. This natural cure is natural because a woman apparently might have cured herself of HIV.
She was just like, nah, I don't want to have this anymore.
Nope, I'm done.
She really wanted it, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the headline that has been shared around. There are people who, after being infected with HIV, they are known as elite suppressors. And these elite suppressors within the HIV positive community, their immune systems are extremely active and are able to fight back the virus and keep the virus at very, very, very low levels to almost undetectable. Now, some children they've found, so in Africa, many children who are born with HIV go on antiretroviral drugs and spend most of their lives on antiretroviral drugs. And then eventually their bodies, they've seen that the bodies of these kids, the immune systems start suppressing the virus on their own without the antiretroviral medications, but it takes a very long time to get there. Additionally, in this situation, they wanted to know, they had come across this woman since 2017 in Argentina. They've been collecting blood samples, scanning DNA, trying to look through billions of cells for any evidence of HIV being integrated into the DNA of immune cells where it could be hiding. Because as we know, HIV can hide. It gets into cells and it might not be completely gone. It might be dormant. And then at some point it can come back out again. But in this case, they have they were looking in she was pregnant, and so they wanted to look at her placenta to know, since it is rich with immune cells, the placenta is a barrier for the fetus between the maternal environment and the fetus, and it could be a great place for a dormant HIV virus to hide. So they're like, okay, let's get that. Let's take a look at it. But they reported in their the Annals of Internal Medicine on Monday that they could find no virus. They looked at billions of cells, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of DNA, and they found nothing. And while they couldn't scan every single cell in her body to actually be able to say there's no HIV hiding anywhere, they couldn't find anything. So there's a possibility
It's possible
that it's hiding in there somewhere. But this woman, who they're calling the Esperanza patient, may have an exceptional immune system that might have excised HIV from her body itself.
Wow. And so before this, the expectation was the best your body could do, combination of your body and drugs, is just suppress the HIV, not have it turn into AIDS, have it just kind of be lingering.
Just there.
Yeah.
Lingering. Mm-hmm.
But this is implying there is a good probability, because you can't prove, like you said, you can't prove every single cell is without HIV. But based on the sample that they took and the fact that placentas are like likely to have it, there's a high probability that there's no more HIV in her body. That's wild. I love that.
Yeah, and it's
Wow.
different from other situations where people got blood transfusions or bone marrow transplants that gave them different immune cells, which allowed their body to fight off the virus. So this is an interesting situation because if we can figure out what is going on in the immune systems of these elite suppressors and people who are exceptional elite suppressors whose bodies can get rid of the virus completely, of which a few apparently can. If we can figure out what's going on, what the factors are that are involved, this could help to really treat and cure HIV,
Neat.
which would be amazing.
Well, this woman hopefully will prepare herself to spend more time in a lab so they can take more samples and figure
Yeah,
out more stuff.
there's a great article in Stat News actually, and we'll link to it on the website. But it's wonderful. Her name is Esperanza, and one of the researchers says it's a beautiful coincidence that Esperanza is where she lives. Esperanza translates literally to hope, which is
Oh
great.
man.
And she thinks of herself as special, and so she's like, if I can't not do anything. If I am actually special, I have to help. So it's a wonderful partnership between people.
Yeah.
We need
I
more of
love
those
that.
partnerships. Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice. I like to, it's like a positive, nice story to start, like really good news, right?
Yes.
Let's start with some really actually good news.
Yeah.
You want to tell me though? Let's go to the controversy.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm gonna bring
let's
it down.
yeah, let's do it.
So we were just talking about the Webb telescope last week, and we have a lot. I remember we had somebody on the show, and we did a live show in Baltimore in 2016,
Yeah.
talking about the telescope and how it was about to be launched. It's been a long journey, but I just came across this editorial in Science Magazine from Daniel Clary. And I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's an interesting topic that I don't know if we talk about a whole lot on the show. So, the naming of things, especially in science, what role that can play. And my question is it a good idea? So, originally, the James Webb Telescope was called the Next Generation Space Telescope. And in 2002, the NASA administrator, Sean O'Keefe, wanted to kind of humanize it, bring more press to the idea of it, give it a snappy name, and named it after James Webb, who was the second administrator of NASA from 1961 to 1968. But what is coming to light, and scientists are not, a particular group of scientists are not thrilled about. In fact, more than 1,200 signatures have been collected to maybe discuss and remove his name from the telescope, is that he is one of the rare cases where a, a scientific instrument was not named after a scientist, named after a politician.
Right.
And unfortunately, his career as a politician has some issues. He was U.S. Secretary of State from 1949 to 1952, and he was a senator prior to that. And he had a part to play in something called the Lavender Scare, which is something that I did not read about in the history books. I was not that aware of. But so this is around the same time as the Red Scare, which is when communists were getting pushed out of or people suspected of communism were getting pushed out of the government, and in some cases being put on trial, and it was really ugly and scary. But around the same time, there was something called the Lavender Scare going on, which was a systematic effort, which was mostly encouraged by prominent members of Congress, to remove people from civil service because they were suspected of being gay, lesbian, or queer. And so their sexuality was seen as a potential compromise against their character. So basically that they would be easier to be manipulated, swayed, or blackmailed by communists. Whoa. And so James Webb had a sizable part to play in that time and those policies. And in fact, immediately after he took over at NASA, somebody was removed for suspicion of being gay. So all of that to say,
That sounds
yeah,
it's not a coincidence, I think.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
So so there was a petition, collected 1,200 signatures. Many of them were scientists that actually will be using the telescope in the day-to-day. NASA began an investigation in June, but as of right now, the case is closed and they have not resolved to change the name. However, there is precedent for certain scientific instruments in NASA to be renamed after they have already been launched and are in commission. So that happened in 2018. NASA renamed SWIFT the gamma ray telescope 14 years after its launch, after Neil Gehrels, who is the principal investigator who had died. So this doesn't mean it's put to bed and it's done, but I will go ahead and say, like, how important is it for us to name these multi-million, or in some cases billion-dollar instruments after people, and particularly white men? Come on.
Yeah.
How many times do we have to learn this lesson, especially today? Like, the Webb telescope is not launched yet, and we are here renaming high schools because people are going, oh yeah, maybe that's not great. Like,
and it does also, I mean, the honorific of having something named after you, it seems like a great honor while you're still alive to appreciate it. Historically, after you're gone, it can maintain your memory, but then our cultural values shift and change, and we have to, I mean, what do we preserve? Do we preserve the cultural values and memories of past decades, or do we preserve and recognize other values? Yeah, but I mean, and you don't even have that problem if you don't name things after people.
No, I think
You
it's
never
gotta
run
be
up against
done.
it.
This is my thing, is like, we've done a good job of naming things Curiosity, and Intrepid, and like, just go with that. Just go with like
Yeah.
good, inspiring words. Just stop naming things after
Or
historical
descriptive.
figures.
The infrared, L2 infrared telescope.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's just,
that's what we want.
especially think about like what kids in science class are going to have to memorize and write down on a test one day. Does it help their understanding of science to know that this thing is called the Webb telescope, or does it help them to associate it with a particular era of scientific technology?
Right.
It
These are
might
important
be
questions.
time
Yeah.
to just reassess this desire to put our names on things. And again, I will say, at the risk of alienating certain people, it does seem like white men really like to put their names on things.
I don't know. I think a lot of people would like to put their names on things and have, their memory live on throughout history, to be appreciated by so many people. People learn about the James Webb Space Telescope and, oh, they say, who's James Webb? And then that starts a whole conversation. Potentially, it can be used in an educating manner about how things were and how they've changed. And that's one argument that has been used. Yeah, these are great questions. And I think I would love to hear from our audience as to their opinions on these sorts of issues. What do you think? Should we change the name of the Webb telescope? Should we not? Let us know. Let us know. Yep, Fada's saying he doesn't mind, so long as we try and choose much older science figures that don't have controversy. Oh, there's controversy attached to just about everybody.
There's always controversy.
People are human.
Enough. Yeah.
Humans are fallible. I mean, there's always something somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Moving on from names, let
Yes.
us talk about disruption.
Yes.
From controversy to disruption. In Silicon Valley, they love to disrupt things.
Oh,
They
they
want to
certainly
disrupt
do.
education. They want to disrupt the internet. They want to disrupt communication. They want to disrupt everything. How about we disrupt bacteria? That's what we want to do.
Well, bad bacteria. Yes, I'm with you.
Yes, bad bacteria. So, things we know about bacteria. We can kill them with antibiotics. Bacteria can gain resistance to those antibiotics through mutations and through sharing of their genetic elements. But additionally, the way that these things work, it depends. And so there's some drugs that just outright stop the way that the bacteria can work, and the bacteria don't function, and so they die off. Another kind, they're bacteriostatic, and the bacteriostatic ones make sure that the bacteria can't multiply. But regardless, when we try to kill bacteria, the bacteria go, I'm under attack, and they don't like it very much, and so they shut down. If they shut down, it's like a dormant state, and we can't get to them in this dormant state. Over time, a lot of them will die, but there's always going to be some left that stay there. And when you remove the antibiotic or you take the stressor away, they're like, oh, okay, things are cool. I'm going to get back into it. Let's multiply. Let's mess things up again. So the bacteria have if there are bacteria there, they will come back. So how do we disrupt the bacteria that are in that dormant state, that have shut down because of stress? Well, some researchers just published in Nature their study looking at what happens to these bacteria in this dormant state. And they realized that there are certain stressors that when they come on, like pH or temperature, things that these bacteria have kind of evolved for, that they're like, oh, this is a normal stressor. They have systems that are incorporated into their biology. They have systems that allow them to adapt and survive through that. So they're like, oh yeah, this is a different temperature. Okay, I can handle this. But when they're in that dormant state, it's like they've shut everything down all at once, and those normal responses don't kick in. So there's something else going on. And so they realize there are these two different management states that the bacteria go into when they're subjected to different kinds of stress. All right, so the bacteria in this dormant state, they gave it, they were looking at E. coli in this particular study published in Nature, that they gave a dose of a chemical called SHX, and it induces starvation immediately. So it's like the bacteria are like, happy, happy bacteria. SHX comes in, and the bacteria are like, I'm so hungry, I'm starving. I need to go dormant. And they applied the SHX for different lengths of time. What they discovered is that when they removed the SHX, the bacteria recovered at different rates of time. So what they're saying here is that there is a time response, that the bacteria are taking the amount of time that the stress has been applied to them into account in how they recover from the stressor. And because there is this kind of a response, they were able to model how bacteria come back from these responses. And they think that they're going to be able to use this information to understand how bacteria will respond to things like antibiotic treatments, and help us disrupt the response to be able to kill more of them more efficiently when we want to, because they're bad and we don't want them. So, understanding how they survive will help us destroy them.
Very
Yeah.
cool. I like
Yeah,
it.
but it's an interesting combination of the simple, like, actual biology, physiology experiment. Give bad thing to bacteria, see how bacteria respond. And then they took that and then applied math and modeling to it and computer modeling to be able to actually make predictions of other types of situations, which could actually help in the long run.
Nice.
Yeah. And then you want to talk about lungfish?
Ooh,
I'm gonna
lungfish.
Yeah, I want to dive into lungfish for a moment. So
The
Blair,
fish that breathe air.
right, you know lungfish.
Yeah.
I mean,
They live in water that's like it doesn't have really very much oxygen, so evolutionarily they had to figure out how to supplement their oxygen. So they suck down air. They were some of the first they were the first vertebrates, I think, to breathe oxygen from the air.
and they're very interesting creatures, and people are really interested in their genome and how they survive. And one of the things that they've adapted to do is transition from wet environments into dry environments. And as they do that during the wet season, they're like, "Yeah, I'm in the mud and I'm in the water," and they're using the water, and they're happy little mud living, water living fish. But then it starts to dry out, and those pools that they're living in are like they start getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and they respond by digging into the mud and
Mm.
creating a cocoon around themselves. They basically live in the mud under the ground as it dries out,
Mm.
and this cocoon is a dry cocoon, but it's created from mucus that their skin produces, and apparently a whole bunch of bacteria. And it's like a cloak that their body produces. Their skin radiates outward, grabs bacteria, and pulls the bacteria on and, like, goes, "Yes,
Mhm.
cover me with bacteria." And they have these immune cells, these granulocytes that travel through the blood to get to the skin and make their way toward the cocoon on the outside of the body to help produce the mucus and grab the bacteria and make everything this environment. It's like an extension of their skin. And this study is very fascinating. It's just fascinating because no one's ever really looked into this before, and they've determined by getting rid of the bacteria in these dry cocoons, the researchers were able to find out that then the skin of the lungfish got lesions, they got infections, they had all sorts of problems when the bacteria went away. And
Mhm.
these bacteria then are their microbiome. They they externally create a microbiome with this mucus and this whole
Hmm.
system that helps protect them in their little mud cocoon,
Love it.
which is pretty cool.
Their microbiome is mostly outside of them. That's so cool.
They don't necessarily carry that microbiome on themselves either. They attract particular bacteria to them and grab onto those bacteria and say, "You're gonna like it here."
I
And
am
they make
one
those
with this
bacteria
mud.
happy.
Yeah. I am the mud. I have become the mud. The mud is me. I am it.
Yes. It's like, yeah, so where does the lungfish end and the mud begin?
Oh.
Oh, these are philosophical questions. I think it's time for us to keep moving on.
Mhm.
This is This Week in Science. If you are enjoying the show, please head over to twist.org and take a look at purchasing one of our calendars. You can get a calendar for 2022 over at twist.org. They make great gifts. Blair, you ready for a COVID update?
Boop-a-doop, boop, boop-a-doop, boop, boop-a-doop, boop-a-doop, boop, boop, boop. Is it a happy one? Boop-a-doop, boop, or a sad one? Boop, 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 boop,
Oh,
boop.
it's a combination of a bunch of
Okay.
things. Yeah, I would say it is more happy than sad.
Well, good.
Yeah. So, some good news here. Researchers have analyzed the US CDC vaccine rollout. They used a model comparing how the CDC split everybody up into different groups and distributed the vaccine over the timing and the months. They compared it over 17.5 million alternative approaches. Guess what? The CDC maybe could have improved the results by
Yeah.
about 4%.
Okay.
The
That's
CDC
not
did
very
r
much.
Yeah, they did really great. The researchers who have published this work, they say that it is, the CDC allocation strategy performed exceptionally well in all 4 measures that they were looking at in their model. They measured total deaths, cases, infections, and years of life lost. There were certain things that the model wasn't able to take into account, or took into account inaccurately. One of those things being varying levels of vaccine hesitancy.
Mm.
It also didn't take reinfections into account, which have been an issue. So that is something that they would like to look at in the future. They can extend it as well to be able to include waning immunity and booster shots and how that affects the spread of the disease. They have made their computer code available to the public. So if you are a code monkey and you want to dig into what these modelers have done, it's available to healthcare policymakers and everyone around the world, which is pretty neat. So good job, CDC. Science says check.
So this a couple things about this. So I mean, the first thing is like, this is great. This means next pandemic, and yes, I am saying next pandemic.
Yeah,
This means we can have some trust in the CDC's recommendations for how to
right?
respond. This is really, really good information to have because I know I was
Yep.
sitting backseat driving throughout this entire thing, and I
Right.
was
We're all
like,
like,
"Why
what about
aren't
this
they
person? What about that? What about this? What about
why
that?
not a regional method? What, like all this kind of stuff."
Yeah.
And I was sure that they were bungling it. But this is good information to have because of the future. And this is helping inspire, at least from me, some more trust in this organization and the recommendations that they make. What I will say though
It's a
is
great point.
we gotta figure out the messaging here because they could have done 4% better does not equate to someone who doesn't understand probability and science really well
Right.
to listen to the CDC. So how can
Yeah.
we turn this into like, hey, they got a better rating than your favorite restaurant's food safety score, right? Like they did really well.
Yeah.
They got a 96
They
basically.
got a
Like
96% on the test. That's
it,
like an A plus. Come
yeah,
on.
so that how do we package this to explain that the CDC did it right and people should listen?
I think, yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, how do we communicate that they balanced the goals of vaccination, that to save lives, to reduce hospitalization, to decrease case loads, and also to decrease the years of life lost? How do we get that
Yes.
across?
Yes, exactly, yeah. It's
They
like a
really
complicated
they
thing
didn't have
to
much room for improvement. They did a great job. I
yeah.
mean, we'll just give them the smiley face rating system.
Yes. Yeah, check
Let's
plus.
give Yeah, exactly. We give them 5 stars.
A
Uh,
gold star even.
um, in a little bit of negative news, talked briefly about the HIV case at the very beginning of the show about the woman and how they wanted to look at her placenta because there's a large amount of immune activity there, a lot of immune cells in the placenta during pregnancy. New study out in Cell that suggests that SARS-CoV-2 can propagate all through the placenta. It just gets in there. So if the mother becomes infected by SARS-CoV-2, SARS-CoV-2 is going to, by using the ACE2 uh, receptor, is going to make its way to all sorts of cell types throughout the placenta. And so that's not good news for the baby, for the mother, for everyone. And it begins to explain what happens when things go wrong during pregnancy.
But we kind of expected this, right? Because speaking of the CDC, pregnant women were pushed kind of to the front of the line when the vaccines first rolled out. So I feel like there was an inkling that this was the case.
Yeah, before the data came out that it's very, very safe, much safer to get vaccinated for COVID-19 than to get COVID-19 while you're pregnant. There was a big question about that for a while, but they did know that COVID-19 was bad for pregnancy, that it
Mhm.
ended in miscarriage and all sorts of issues very regularly. So they did want to protect pregnancies very early on, but it was just a matter of
Mhm.
balancing the unknown about because there hadn't been any clinical trials with the vaccine and pregnancy
Right.
prior
Right,
to
but
that.
since then
But they
we've
did
also
want, yeah,
found that the vaccine, the immunity transfers to the baby too.
yes,
So,
and during breastfeeding,
yeah.
it's great. All those antibodies,
Yeah.
your baby is benefited. Yeah, so don't spread the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Get vaccinated and share your antibodies with your child. Go strong. Yes, yes. Let's see. Okay, so that's bad news, good news. But it's helpful news because
Mhm.
it can help us move forward, right? Um, moving forward, we want to know what kind of animals might be reservoirs for SARS-CoV-2. We recently heard about white-tailed deer. People have talked about dogs and cats, pets. We've talked about tigers in zoos,
Mhm.
gorillas at zoos. We've talked
Mhm.
about all sorts of animals that may be susceptible to SARS-CoV-2 and could potentially become reservoirs where further mutations can take place, just like the unvaccinated reservoirs of people that we talk about regularly. It can happen in animals as well, and so we want to know where the virus can go. This can also help us understand where the virus might have come from in the first place. So these researchers at Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies in New York, they created a machine learning model that uses animals' traits to predict the structure of the ACE2 receptors. So they used the ACE2 receptor structure of animals that we know. So, hey, we've got these 300 or so animals and ACE2 receptors in our database. Let's use that. Okay, what are the traits of the animals that have these particular ACE2 receptors? That's great. Now let's create a model. And so, with their model, they've just published the results in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B. They were able to predict 5,400 species that may be susceptible to SARS-CoV-2. Among them, white-tailed deer, which is what we just
Mm.
have discovered recently. So some predictions have been very accurate. Others are still questionable, like the scimitar-horned oryx is a zoo animal, has lots of contact with people in zoos, but nobody's reported infections there yet. And there are other animals like that. So the question is, how can we take this information about potentially susceptible animals and use it usefully, effectively to be able to monitor different populations for potential outbreaks and infections? We don't want to have the ferret issue that
Mhm.
we had in Denmark and here in the United States, where it's all of the mink. It was the mink
Mhm.
issue where all the
Yeah.
minks had to be culled because they were SARS-CoV-2 positive or could potentially be, and so that was
Right.
to cull domesticated animals is going to be incredibly costly and potentially a waste if they're not really a problem. So there needs to be a collaboration between the biologists, the modelers, and the people who are actually in the field working and looking for the virus.
Yeah, I think, a really good example of this is, opossums. Follow me here. It's a little bit of a reach, but,
All right. I
um,
like opossums.
they, because they're, urbanized animals, they're around garbage all the time, people associate them with raccoons and all this kind of stuff. There's this expectation that they can carry rabies, and so, there's whenever a person's bit by an opossum or there's an opossum problem or anything sorts of things, there's a push to cull them to check them for rabies, which the only way to do that is to euthanize them and check their brain. But research has found it is extremely rare for opossums to carry rabies. It's almost impossible because they have a lower body temperature compared to other warm-blooded animals because they're marsupials.
Interesting.
So the reason I bring that up is that like that's exactly what this is about, right? Is identifying which species it's likely to hang out in so that we know who to check on. Luckily, you can check animals for COVID without poking into their brain, but
Right.
well, it's sort of right. As I'd like to see them try to swab an oryx. That would be dangerous.
Oh, they've got horns.
They certainly do.
And
Yes,
hooves.
yes. But yes. Anyway, yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do is figure out who could be a carrier so that you can manage the situation better. And that also means if you know who can be a carrier, you know how to adjust your management of that species in captivity. Better PPE around humans, all that good stuff, quarantine, etc.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of interesting things. I love, again, this is one of these integrative studies that it's using computer modeling, but it's using biological information. We're using physiological information about the ACE2 inhibitor. If it can be, it just needs to be applied in the right way to the right species.
I will also mention, just while we're at it, that there are lots of animals out there that carry what's called zoonotic diseases.
Bats, we talk about it all the time.
Bats do it. Most reptiles shed salmonella. It just lives in their stomach, like
Wash
E.
your
coli lives
hands.
in ours. Armadillos can carry rabies, not rabies, leprosy. Like it's just animals carry diseases. So I also am just mentioning that some monkeys, macaques can carry Hep C. Like it's just part of being the animal kingdom means there's like a disease ecosystem, and there are diseases that can jump from animals to humans. So managing zoonotics is part of managing animal populations. So I also just say that because I know COVID, you don't want to think like, oh, this species can carry COVID. They gotta go.
Right.
They're
exactly.
dangerous. Stay away. No, we actually manage species that carry deadly diseases to humans, and we do it safely.
Most of the time. Some of the times.
You have to be careful. You have to know what you're doing.
Sometimes we're playing catch up, but
there's the more you know, the safer you can be about it. But it's I
That's
just wanted to throw out there it's part of the game. It's not like let's get rid of everything that could carry COVID. It's unrealistic.
Exactly. It's unrealistic, and we also need to consider ecosystems. So we need to understand the importance of various species and species diversity and all the different aspects of a sustainable planet and ecosystems existing together. Hey, remember how we were talking about fluoxetine and the antidepressant and how it could possibly maybe be useful in reducing deaths from COVID-19?
Yeah.
There were some really interesting results from a study that was published recently, but some big questions as to how was this study really done, and is it as good as we would need it to be to really start using this thing. Well, a new study just came out from UCSF, and the researchers at UCSF did a review. They just published this in JAMA Network Open. They looked at, they analyzed data from the Cerner Real World COVID-19 Electronic Health Record database, 83,584 patients who tested positive from COVID-19 from January to September 2020 at 87 U.S. medical centers. Because this was anonymized data, they were also able to determine which of these patients were on SSRIs, were taking SSRIs, and so that's one of the medications they're taking. So obviously, you're in the hospitals, your medications are still being given to you. They matched those patients against controls who were not taking SSRIs, and they determined that SSRIs reduced death among patients by 8%. So 8% fewer deaths in the SSRI group than the control group in the general population. Those taking fluoxetine or fluvoxamine, which are I think it's Prozac or Pax. I don't remember the name brands of these drugs. Oh, Prozac and Luvox are the name brands. Fluoxetine and fluvoxamine. 13.3% of the of this group died. Versus it was 10% of the fluoxetine versus 13.3% of the control patients. So it's still very close, but it's a slight improvement in the number of deaths from
And
antidepressants.
this is strictly correlative.
Absolutely.
Because
yes.
it was not a double-blind,
No.
randomized study.
They just went into the data and they said, what happened in these groups? Yeah.
So there could be a specific mechanism at play here. We don't know.
There could be. They also determined specifically for fluoxetine that there was a 28% reduction in death, which is, it's percentage, so that's not an absolute number. But any improvement in the number of deaths can be useful. And if it is a tool that if it's a tool that doctors can use to treat, then that's great. It's not quite as good as the new treatment pills coming out of Merck and Pfizer, but it's something that's an improvement potentially. So this is interesting. Just another bit of evidence to put in the bucket of evidence that's accumulating. The big question still is, why would these work? Why would SSRIs affect the immune system? What are they affecting? How are they working? Nobody knows the mechanism. So that's an interesting question.
If we knew that, we could maybe soup up those pills that you mentioned even more.
Yes. Superpower antidepressant. Well,
extra strength COVID medicine.
And then hopefully, aside from the side effects, you feel much happier when you get out of the hospital too. All right. Well, I don't think I have any other COVID-19 news. Something like 10% of, aside from the good news that about 10% of kids have gotten their first COVID-19 vaccination, which is very exciting. Kids are lining up across the country. Got my son vaccinated this weekend. Yay!
Yes.
Looking forward to a very happy holiday season.
Yeah.
For sure. This is This Week in Science. We hope that you're enjoying the show. If you are, please consider heading over to TWIS.org and either clicking on our Patreon link and becoming an ongoing supporter of TWIS. You can choose your levels of support. You can choose anywhere from $1 to $1,000, whatever you choose. $10 and more per month. We will thank you by name at the end of the show every single week. And we also have another option. You can buy our calendars. The 2022 Blair's Animal Corner calendar is available for sale now. Some great original art by Blair. It's there at twist.org. Click on the frog. It's not a toad. It's a frog.
That's what I have to say about that. Yeah, buy one for you, buy one for your mom, buy one for your dad, buy one for your brother, buy one for your sister, buy one for your friend, buy one for your niece, buy one for your nephew, buy one for everyone.
Buy one for everyone. We thank you for your support. We really can't do this without you. Okay, it is time now for the wonderful part of the show that we talk about all the animal things. It's Blair's Animal Corner with Blair.
creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. You want to hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. And I'm no
What you got, Blair?
Oh, good. You said it so I can continue. So my first story involves animal art. So no, not the stuff in my calendar. I'm talking about when you hand a crayon and a piece of paper to an animal in a zoo. There are a lot of animals that will paint or draw. Mostly animals with thumbs, but there is like elephants will do it. Other animals will do stuff with their paws, and so this is something that it's a type of enrichment. I know I've talked about enrichment on the show before, but it's basically something to stimulate the mind or body of an animal in a zoo so that they use some sort of natural behaviors. And so, especially for great apes and other animals with thumbs, giving them art tools allows them to use fine motor skills in a way that they would to forage, to make tools, to break things apart, to do any groom each other. So it actually is helping them to kind of key into natural behaviors, believe it or not. But anyway, there was a scientist from University Institute of France, Cedric Sour, primatologist there, who was watching his young daughter drawing, scribbling with intention, as if it had some sort of meaning, and it got him to thinking. And so he then learned about 5 female Bornean orangutans at Tama Zoological Park in Japan, and regularly they are provided with whiteboards and crayons. And from 2006 to 2016, workers collected 1,433 drawings made by the orangutans. Most of them were drawn by one orangutan named Molly, about 1,299 of them. She did most of them. And she was 54 years old already when she started to draw in the zoo, and actually passed away during the study. She died in 2011. So there was 5 years of data collection after that, and she still created the majority of the drawings. That being said, the other orangutans did too, but it seemed like Molly took extra time to draw than some of the others. And so this researcher wanted to find out if there was a difference between how they did it, like if they had art styles, if they had moods with their art, if it changed from time to time, if it was deliberate, if it was random. Were they, for whatever you want to call it, right, creating art, or were they just scribbling? And so the orangutans,
I don't know. I
decided-
called my toddler's scribbles art.
yeah.
So let's discuss.
Yeah, so
what
so
is
this
art?
This brought up a really interesting question. Towards the very end of the article, they mentioned cave drawings and how they first happened. So I want you to have that kind of in the back of your head while I talk you through this study and the drawing that these orangutans are doing, because it's very easy, even I, who am constantly saying we're just animals, right?
Yeah.
It still feels like a far jump from this to the kind of art we create, to film, to music, to
Yeah.
abstract art, to
Complex.
pointillism, to like all
Yeah.
this great, right? It seems like such a far jump, but if you think about some of the first art that we have isolated and identified, these cave paintings, and then you think about things even a little more, I guess, crude than that, like hashtags and scratchings, some of them about 70,000 year old. Those could be precursors to cave drawings. So if you kind of open your mind to that, where did it start? It could very well have started here. I
Yeah.
mean, you definitely see animals scratching at or pawing in the dirt, making scratch marks in the dirt. Are they Are they doing what we would do if we were a bored kid on the playground, scratching out patterns
I
in the
just
dirt?
saw my cat today. Well, I didn't see it happen, but my cat vomited on the floor after she ate. And then I guess she went to scratch and cover it up. But apparently, because I had folded my laundry on the floor near where she vomited, she grabbed a piece of laundry and covered the vomit with the laundry.
Oh, don't want to see it.
She was hiding it from me. So I'm
Okay.
definitely going to apply intent there.
Yes.
She knew what she did and she needed to hide it.
So intent is the question, though, right?
Yeah,
That really is
exactly.
what this is about. Now,
Yeah.
that seems like a stretch. However,
I don't know. My cat's very, very smart, Blair.
the interesting thing here with the orangutans is that Molly was the most prolific of all of the orangutans with her drawings, and she also took more time with it. Others would finish their drawings very quickly, drop them to the floor. She could be working on a drawing for over an hour. After they
Wow.
finished their drawings, the orangutans would drop them to the floor. Some of them tore them up. They were free to begin new ones. Most of them did one or two and they're like, I'm good. And they went and did something else. But Molly would make a lot of these things. They analyzed 790 of the drawings specifically, examined the amount of canvas colored, the shapes, the colors used, the how lightly or heavy their lines were on the drawing, like how hard you're pressing with the crayon. And they were able to find individual differences in their color preferences, how strongly they pressed, and how much of the board they covered. They could identify who did drawings based on these things. So first
Yeah.
you find styles that they're saying that reflects differences in personality, motivation, and cognitive abilities. That seems like a pretty big jump, but I do think there is an individuality to how they used these things. I think
Yes.
that is easy
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
Those specific items,
What the
I think-
individuality is caused by is still in question.
yeah, I think we
Yeah.
need more study on that. But the other thing that they talk about is that Molly, since she was drawing so many, they could compare her drawings over time. They found that as she aged, she drew with fewer colors, she covered less of the sheet, and she drew farther from center. Interestingly, she became blind in her left eye as she aged, so that could be just a direct result of that. She still created more complex drawings than the other individuals, making a greater variety of strokes, variety of colors, and she favored different colors in different seasons. She favored purple in the
Interesting.
spring, green in the summer and winter, and at one time when another orangutan was giving birth, she did a painting that was mostly red, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
What they say is that she
Coincidence?
she didn't have direct eye contact, but could definitely smell the blood of the birth.
Blood.
So could be coincidence for sure. Could also not.
Right?
I think noticing purple in the spring and green in the summer could be a coincidence. Could be related to the foliage around where she is.
She's drawing what she saw.
Absolutely.
Or was
could
inspired
be.
by it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is not like a super concrete study. I think there's a lot of research to be done, but I think to recognize that there is individual differences that can be it can be disqualified from being random chance, I think is really what's important here. They were different enough that the research found that these were different enough to say it's not just that they're picking random crayons and doing random shapes. They have styles to them, is really what's wild here. I'm not surprised to find out that one orangutan favored a particular enrichment item over another. Anyone who's worked with animals knows, like, of course, there's animals that prefer a specific toy or a specific food or a specific area of their enclosure or a particular radio station. Like, there's any number of things that, animals are individuals. They have preferences. But I think having style differences in their art is really cool.
It's very cool. Yeah.
I think there's a rich field of study here to be had, and I do think
oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I think anthropologists should get in on this with
Yeah.
primatologists, because I really do think this could help us understand how art came to be in humanity, which is such a huge, like, whoa question.
Right. I mean, so often it's like, oh, that primate is using that stick to poke for ants in a tree or in the dirt. They're looking for termites or, whatever it is. But what if they're using that twig to just make designs in the dirt?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How often do orangutans stick their hand in the mud and then put their hand on a rock? Like how I don't know anything about that, but what do primatologists know about that?
Yeah. And who else
Mhm.
is doing that? Who doesn't have
Who else
thumbs?
is?
It's
Right?
definitely, I think this could be a really cool kind of window into how art happened. I think it's awesome.
That's great. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's cool.
Yeah. So moving on to cats, speaking of your cat, do you
Got my cat.
think your cats care about where you are and what you're doing when you're not feeding them?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no.
Oh, why do you
I
say
will
that?
I think it's, their motivation. Sometimes my cats come to me and they definitely wanna play. Sometimes my
Mm.
cats, I hear them meow from other parts of the house, and it's like, an attention-getting meow.
Mm.
Um,
That's
but, yeah,
interesting.
so it's like they're calling to make sure I'm somewhere. It's like I don't know, I do think that they pay attention to where I am
Okay.
and when I'm there and what I'm doing.
Okay, so let me press further.
Okay.
When they are lounging in the sun, face not even pointed towards you, do you think they care where you are and what you're doing in the house?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to put my ideas of caring onto my cats, but
Sure,
yeah.
sure, 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 sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
okay,
I
I'll remove
no
that
clue.
subjective word then. So, do you think they pay attention?
I think they do pay attention. I mean, I am the source of their food.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so I this is
Source of
such a
pets and cuddles.
really funny story, and the experimental technique is hilarious. So, this is a several institutions in Japan work together, this team of researchers, to try to find out if cats keep track of where their people are in their homes, even when they can't see them and
Ah,
it's not
okay.
mealtime. And up to this point, anecdotal evidence and other kind of claims suggest that cats are generally ambivalent to the activities that go on around them with their humans when it's not feeding time. There's a lot of cats out there. People say, my cat doesn't care about me at all.
My cat wants to run away when I bring out the vacuum cleaner.
There you go. So paying some attention.
Yeah.
Get that loud sucky thing
Uh,
away.
mhm.
Yes.
"Oh, are
So
you in the kitchen? Am I hungry? What you doing?
yeah.
Hi."
So what they did to see if that's true is they carried out a series of experiments involved placing cats in enclosures fitted with speakers and piping in sounds and observing their reactions. So already this is a very interesting method. You can't know what the cat's thinking, so you can really just record its responses to stimuli and try to guess what they're thinking. This is 50 domestic cats and their owners. They were separated into 3 random groups. Each of the 3 groups was then further divided into house cats and cafe cats. Each of the cats were placed inside room-sized enclosures fitted with speakers. Another speaker was placed outside, and the groups of cats were then exposed to different sounds from the speakers. Some were the owner's voices calling them by name, others were strangers' voices calling their name, and some was just random noise. So the researchers played sound in pairs, first sent to the speaker inside the enclosure and then sent to the speaker outside of the enclosure. As the sounds were played, they had volunteer observers rate the degree of surprise from each cat. So that way, nobody knows who's calling the name, who's observing it, so they can't sway the data. And so when they looked at the data, they found that cats appeared to express surprise when hearing the voice of their owner, first inside and then suddenly outside, kind of to suggest that they teleported instantly. Yeah. And so
How did they get there?
Yeah.
What?
The fact that they appeared surprised suggested that they were keeping track of their humans. So they heard their voice inside, like, okay, great, Kiki's inside. She's in the backyard now. How's that possible? And so that means that they are constantly, they think, building a mental map of their surroundings in their home, including, of course, the humans that they live with.
Part of me, my response to this is that I'm not surprised. These are animals that are predators that, in
Mhm.
any situation, they need to know about the other things going on in their environment.
Yep.
Is there something dangerous? When am I gonna get food? I mean, this is survival 101, right? You need to know to survive the world that you live in, what the
Yeah.
environment that you're in, how dangerous it is, how safe it is, and so you need to keep track of variables. Something like the stove in the kitchen doesn't move, but the human moves around the house.
Mhm. Yep. Well, and the other thing about cats is we know that they have evolved specifically to manipulate us. So they have
No, to love us.
yes,
To
sure,
love us, Blair.
sure. But yes, as Michelle Kelly says in the chat room and YouTube, I've read the cat's meows are for humans for the most part. That's true. They evolved that to get our attention, and so
They
that's
do meow to each other, though, but there are
yes,
specific people-based meows as well.
right. And
Yes.
so they have adapted, they have evolved to be with us. They are domestic species, and so of course they're going to be paying attention to where we are and what we're doing to a certain extent, but it does go against this kind of common narrative of cats don't care about you at all.
Yeah, I think that is cats getting a bad rap.
Yeah, I think
They
that's
do care about you
true.
for their own reasons that
Just
remain.
sometimes they make you pay for that care with your own blood. That's all I'm saying is
Okay, dog lady.
no, I'm kidding. But it's true, if you pet a dog the wrong way, they just leave. But if you pet a cat the wrong way, you'll pay with your blood. They're
Different
much more sharp.
personalities. They are. Dogs are boobas and cats are kikis.
Sure. Yeah. You said it. Do you want to hear about corals or do you want to
Yes.
close? Okay, great.
Bring me corals. Yes.
So corals. I give a lot of bad news about corals on this show, especially the Great Barrier Reef. But I have some good news this week. Some new research that could help corals on our planet. So of course, corals are in trouble for a lot of reasons. The sunscreen that we wear, the rising sea levels, rising sea temperatures, ocean acidification, pollution, all these things are kind of piling up on coral and it's causing problems because they can't handle it all at once. And so we can try to stop all those things. We have to try to stop all those things or at least slow them. But as we are trying to do that, we have the potential to lose a lot of corals. So this is one of those things where, I'm often pushing like, okay, we can't try to put a Band-Aid on it. We have to stop the problem at its source. Well, this is one of those things where you have to do both. And so this is a really cool research project led by the Australian Institute of Marine Science, AIMS, and it is aligned with the Great Barrier Reef's mass coral spawning event, which comes up in November They want to use artificial intelligence and genetic analysis to locate reefs that have a high likelihood of having heat-tolerant corals, and using those corals when they are ripe with eggs and sperm to kind of seed or hybridize with the corals that are most likely to be impacted by climate change. So you can take the hardiest corals, you can kind of inject some of that into the gene pool of the areas most at risk. So I love this because this is, we've talked a lot about coral opportunities that are very, very localized and kind of one-offs. Like you can build resilient coral and then transplant it. Okay, but that like takes a lot of work and it just takes care of that one little coral that you transplanted. You can grow corals and then transplant them so they get a head start. There's a really cool study a few weeks ago about using Lego as modular scaffolding for
Yeah.
building coral. I loved.
Yeah, that's great.
But all of that really just helps you build individual corals and transplant them later. This will allow broadcast spawning for 800 kilometers of a radius. This is a huge radius for their broadcast spawning of this more hardy genome, so that you can make sure basically that a portion of the entire next generation of these corals are better set up for the challenges ahead.
That's really amazing and very important, as so much of places like the Great Barrier Reef and others are being
Mhm.
affected by ocean acidification and ocean warming and coral bleaching and all this stuff.
Yeah, so
How can we boost it? Making better
Dr.
coral.
Line Bay from Ames, the principal research scientist and part of the Australian government's Reef Restoration and Adaptation Program, REP, says, quote, "To protect coral reefs, the world needs to reduce emissions, maintain good management of marine ecosystems, and invest in cutting-edge marine science to help coral reefs adapt, recover, and survive to warming oceans." So I really appreciate that because they didn't forget to mention the emissions, which
Yeah.
is the cause. But then on the kind of marine science side of things, you can give the coral a helping hand.
We need to. We're taking away on one side, so we need to help it on the other. I mean, we need to fix the emissions problem, but let's do what we can in
Yeah.
the meantime.
We can do both. There's
Yeah.
7 billion of us on this planet. I
There's
think
a
we
lot
can
of
do a
us.
few things at a time.
Yeah, there's a lot of us to do different things. Yes, some people can do the emission stuff, and these scientists can work on boosting the spawners.
Yeah.
Increase the spawn. That's wonderful. Yeah, I like that. It's a different technique. It's a different strategy, but used in conjunction with some of these other strategies for bolstering coral populations. The more we do, the better it can be.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Give them a nice head start.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. I wonder if that's the kind of thing that volunteers could get involved in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I think they would have either extremely experienced volunteers or um specific marine biologists pulling the coral, but you could definitely have almost anybody with scuba certification dropping them in the location for broadcast spawning. That would be pretty easy to do. So
Nice.
I think you're totally right. I have my uncle actually he's a scuba diver, and so he volunteers, I think, through Mbari in Monterey. He
Okay.
helps with quadrant
Right,
surveys down there.
I talked with your uncle. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes, with
So
sampling. Yeah.
yeah, so he is one of those volunteers that helps with marine science research, which is so cool.
That's neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's many opportunities to get involved in science out there.
Mhm.
So many different ways to do the sciencing. But this is This Week in Science, so we're going to talk about the sciencing, and I have 3 more stories. So let's talk
Let's
about
hear
brains.
You brought brain stories? I'm shocked.
I know, shocking. I try and stack the end of the show with my brainy interests. Yeah. So, we all like to exercise, right? Right? Exercise.
Sometimes.
It's part of a good keeping yourself healthy kind of plan for how you live your life. If you can exercise, it can be beneficial. Researchers just published in the journal Gut Microbes that they were able to reduce levels of inflammation and pain for people with knee arthritis in their knees, uh, when they had them exercise, which sounds counterintuitive. So I guess this one particular study isn't a brain study. The next 2 studies are brain studies.
Okay.
But anyway, that's an aside. So counterintuitive, exercising your knees when you have knee arthritis can help reduce pain. How does this work? Well, they have determined with this study by analyzing anti-inflammatory compounds in the blood, the gut microbiome, and also there's cytokines and endocannabinoids. They looked at all sorts of things that were going on and found that when the people in the study exercised, it increased the levels of endocannabinoids in their bodies. Those endocannabinoids were associated with reduction in pain, but also with potentially modulating the diversity of bacteria in the gut microbiome, increasing the diversity of the microbes, and the microbes themselves release anti-inflammatory substances and perpetuate anti-inflammatory processes that reduce pain. So exercising promotes better bacteria in your gut, which then pay it back by making you have less pain.
That's a leap.
Right?
I thought you were just gonna say like, oh yeah, it just like stretches it out and maintains mobility. Like that would be my complete 100% guess of why exercise would help with arthritis pain, is that you're like, you're
No.
loosening it up, you're working
No.
through the stiffness. Nope.
No, it's
your
bacteria,
gut.
and it's this whole thing that goes to your gut, and then it'll help your knees. So this is just a study looking at people who have achy knees, but it doesn't necessarily apply to things like rheumatoid arthritis in multiple joint systems, or with different aches and pains. But it's interesting to find that there was this relationship between our natural cannabinoid system, which is like a pain reduction system that our bodies produce, and gut microbes, and it all fits together. If you exercise, maybe you make a nice bacteria environment. The bacteria are like, yay! And then I don't know.
Wild.
This can reduce your chronic inflammation, perhaps through bacteria, through exercise. It all fits together. Oh my God. I definitely need to get a good night's sleep and then exercise tomorrow. Eat a healthy diet. It's all about making the microbes happy.
Yeah.
If Justin were here, that's what he'd be going on about. Making the microbes happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about grandmothers.
Uh-huh.
Okay. You know the grandmother hypothesis? The idea that that we live longer so that grandmothers can be around to help raise children and help with the whole social group of many different animals.
Yeah, it's why females live past menopause. Otherwise, there'd be no evolutionary reason for them to keep living.
Why are you sticking around? Yeah. So this very it's a pilot study. It's just digging into this area, and is one of the first of its kind to look at the brains of grandmothers Specifically, they recruited 50 grandmothers and they had them look at pictures of their grandchildren, other people's grandchildren, of their own children, and other people that they didn't know. And they stuck them in an fMRI machine to look at how their brains were activated. Turns out the brains of grandmothers are very empathetic to their grandchildren.
Just their grandchildren?
Yeah, just their grandchildren.
So that's like if you're watching your parents interact with your kids and you're like, they weren't that nice to me. It's biology. That's
Yeah.
why.
So the question is, okay, what's actually happening as you get older to lead to this change? Is it that, okay, I mean, we don't know for sure this empathy for, or this lighting up for the empathy for these grandchildren, like what is driving that? How much of having experiences with that grandchild, working with that grandchild, what they've done. So this is very early days digging into this. But it's very interesting to note that there was a difference also of between their grandchildren and their own children. So with their grandchildren, they were in their brain areas involved with emotional empathy. So lots of emotions and movement. And so like, oh, I need to love and care for my grandchild. And it's kind of leading to the interest in how the grandchild is feeling. Whereas the brain areas that are activated for their own children are involved with cognitive empathy. So they're more interested in in different aspects of what their children are thinking about, like the more analytical aspects of their children's lives as opposed to the emotional aspects.
Do you know if they showed pictures of their children that were current, like as adults, or if they showed pictures of their children as children?
I was trying to get access to the study to be able to determine that, because I thought that was a very interesting, that would have been an important point.
Yeah.
And I
feel like you want to do
access
both
to the study that deeply. Yeah.
Right? You want to have the current grandchild, your child as their child as a child, and then their child today, and see how they're different. Because it's also possible that they would like romanticize how they felt about their own child when they were little, and it would be more similar to the grandchild. But if you showed them a current one, it would be more analytical. And yeah, interesting. I think that would be very interesting to see.
But it was different. So grandmother brains lit up in a very special way.
Mhm.
And so there is something special about grandmother brains that helps grandmothers be grandmothers.
And
It's
that's
not
why
the
they
same.
made their own child eat broccoli every night, but when the grandchild comes over, it's candy and cake.
Oh, you want some candy? Okay. Exactly. Do you want to go out to a movie? Do you want a comic book? Do you want? Yeah.
Oh my God, it's biology. There's nothing to be done about it.
Yep. Grandmother brains. I love it. I love it. I hope to have a grandmother brain one day.
Yeah.
So my last story here that I want to end on is just an interesting note that the world is filled with psychopaths.
That sounds correct.
Yeah. Yes. Researchers did a systematic review and meta-analysis of studies investigating psychopathy in various populations. They looked at 15 studies as of June 2021, and they had 16 samples of adults totaling 11,497 people. They determined that the general adult population at most has about 4.5% psychopaths. In the United States, that calculates out to approximately 14,805,000 people who have psychopathy. using the gold standard for determining psychopathy and psychopathic traits. They determined that there is at least 1.2% of the population, the general adult population, that are made up of psychopaths. And that would be 3,948,000 psychopaths. So, still, a lot of psychopaths are in the world. And yes, if you go to very specific populations in the study, they suggest that there are higher percentages of psychopaths in particular populations, like prison populations have upwards of 35% psychopaths. And apparently, universities have 8 to 14% psychopaths. Nobody knows why, but they did not, in this particular study, look at majors that people are choosing. And they suggest that future studies should look at specific majors, things that get people going into business or economics specifically.
Don't you think college, though, also is a place where psychopathic tendencies are going to be brought to the surface? Statistically, there's less sleep, there's tense social situations, there's constant stress. It's
Yeah, and but I also do wonder about the biasing sample, the sample biases of the studies that they used in their review, and whether or not, if they are, just gathering university students, are these university students who have specifically volunteered for studies because this is something they can get for extra credit, or they can do, there's certain things you can do which may predispose certain personality types to have volunteered for these trials. Anyway, questions. The bottom line is there are a lot of psychopaths in the world. And so when you go on social media, remember that.
well, I was also thinking,
because not everybody has your best interests at heart. That's
right.
That's the take home message.
Yeah, but I feel like the other take home message here is we knew it, but there's a mental health crisis.
Yes.
Like, what can we do for these people? How can we help them? How can we keep them from hurting themselves or others? This means this is a problem. Like, the fact that mental health care is not free and available is a problem. Because if you're a person who doesn't have medical coverage that covers mental health care, and you're one of this 14 or 3 million, you're out of luck. And so are the people around you, and that's not good.
Right, and that's not going to be helping anyone, right?
Yeah. Which most colleges have free counseling. So if that is where there's a lot of these people, hey, if you're watching and you think you might be a psychopath, or even just, hey, anyone watching that has access to free mental health care, do it. It's great.
Yeah. And if anyone is interested in the construct of psychopathy, it's generally, according to this article, a type of personality disorder characterized, among other things, by the presence of behaviors that conflict with the social, moral, or legal norms of society, giving rise, in many cases, to clearly criminal behaviors.
It's a lot more widespread than I expected. I thought it would be a little more clinical than that. That's interesting.
Yeah. There are lots of aspects to diagnosis, but the presence of personality traits related to lack of emotion, lack of nervousness, absence of remorse or shame, inability to love, show affective reactions, presence of an outward appearance of normality, lack of delusions and other signs of irrational thought, superficial charm, good intelligence. There are many aspects that could determine a diagnosis. But of course, a diagnosis needs to be made within proper medical systems.
Which not everyone has access to, again.
Which not everyone has access to, your point.
Just,
Yes. Oh, I see a Justin Jackson in the chat saying, if. He must have been responding to the cats.
Yes, I do believe it was when you said if Justin was here, he'd be saying, you got to keep that gut microbiome happy. He said, if I'm right here, I'm yelling it at my screen. Aren't you,
I'm
Justin?
listening, saying all the things that I would be saying.
We can't hear you.
Have we made it to the end of the show, Blair?
We did.
We did it. We've made it to the end of another episode of This Week in Science. Thank you, Blair.
Thank you, Kiki.
We missed you, Justin. Everyone out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Now, time for some shout outs. I would love to shout out to Fada for your help on social media and show notes, Gord manning the chat room, and to others who help the chat room stay sane and clean and happy and a nice place to be and to chat about the science of the show. Identity Forward, thank you for recording the show. And Rachel, thank you for editing the show and for your assistance. And I would like to thank our Patreon sponsors for their support. Thank you to Kent Northcote, Rick Loveman, Pierre Velazar, Ralphie Figueroa, John Ratnaswamy, Carl Kornfeld, Karen Hosey, Woody M.S., Andre Bassett, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vigard, Chefstad, Hal Snyder, Donathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Maddie Perrin, Gaurav Sharma, Don Mundus, Stephen Alberon, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fredus 104, Sky Luke, Paul Ronovich, Kevin Breeden, Noodles Jack, Brian Carrington, Matt Bass, Sean and Nina Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Gene Tellier, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Kevin Railsback, Rami Day, Flying Out, Christopher Dyer, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Hey, Arizona, support Aaron Lieberman for governor. I hope you already did, maybe? I don't know. I don't think it's time anymore. Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul Mallory Sutter, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Sarah Chavez, Sue Doster, Jason Old, Steve Neighbor, Eric Knapp, E.O., Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve Bell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, Tony Steele, Ulysses Adkins, and Jason Roberts. Thank you for all of your support of TWIS. And if you out there would like to support TWIS on Patreon, please head over to twis.org and click on the Patreon link. On next week's show,
we'll be back on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook channels and from twis.org/live.
Want to listen to us as a podcast? Just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, get your friends to subscribe too.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website. That's at twis.org. And while you're there, you can sign up for a newsletter. We are cooking one up as we speak.
We are. And for more information, that's right, sign for a newsletter, right, blah, 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 blah. You can contact us directly. That's right. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, Blair at blairbaz@gmail.com, at twist.com, at twist. What are these emails?
We have 3 different URLs. I'm at blairbaz at twist.org.
Thank you. I need to get everyone on the same darn emails.
Yeah, no.
We've never done that. Why would we do that now? Just put TWIS in the subject line so your email doesn't get spam filtered into. Blair, you want to come up with something? You're so good at it.
Into a placenta.
No, I know. You don't want your email in a placenta.
No. You can also hit us up on Twitter. We are at TWIS Science, TWI Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you in the middle of the night, please let us know.
And we will be back here next week. We hope that you'll join us once again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything at all from the show tonight, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views. But I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to
You just might understand. Woo! You just might understand. It's This Week in Science's after show.
Woo!
We made it.
Woo!
I faded us out poorly, but I did
Woo.
it. Woo! I keep. I'm gonna move over here.
Woo! Ooh, I get to sit. It's the after show. I'm gonna
Now
sit.
it's the after show. You can sit down. I'm trying. So my keyboard, it's a great keyboard. I really like it. It's clickety clackety, and I like the key stroke action. But it's a long keyboard because it's got the number pad, and so I can never center it exactly where I want it on my desk because there's like this other bit to it, and so the number pad is where I want to put my mouse. I can't do that because then I have to move the keyboard over so that I can get the microphone where I want it to be. And so I keep moving like all over my
Yeah.
desk. Like never in the right spot. Nothing works right.
No.
It's little
Oh,
things,
boy.
little things. You know, like every once in a while you're like, why does my sweatshirt feel weird?
Yes. No, absolutely. That's right. Yeah, no, I have this 70-inch desk and I am out of room on it somehow. It's like things expand to the space that exists, you know?
Oh, we do. We expand to fill our spaces.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yes.
Hello, all. We hope you enjoyed the show. Okay, November 2022. So I can expect to be saying support Aaron Lieberman for governor for another year, right? That's probably okay.
Oh boy.
I mean,
Let me
that was
look him
a
up.
smart move, patron. Look at you. Using my program for messaging. That's great.
Aaron Lieberman for governor. I'm going to the site. I'm figuring out what's going on.
Where is it? Where?
Okay. He's in
Oh, Identity 4. You got the
That's good.
dance going in our Discord there. If you support us on Patreon, you get to be part of our Discord. We've got other chats and things going on. The broadcaster issues, right, Hot Rod? I have so many issues. Oh, Gorov is asking you a question.
Oh. Here's the thing.
It's like personalities for art. No.
I actually don't think this is I think you're raised around one or the other or both. And that is the animal that you know how to read, that you are comfortable around.
See.
And when a cat person is forced into common space with a dog and tries to interact with a dog, it's like, what? Why? This is a lot. And then if a dog person like I was goes to play with a cat like I did when I was 8, you end up...
And the cat scratches you. You're like, why?
bloody because you're like, why couldn't I like roughly pet you and scratch you on the nose? And like, it's just, so I think people are raised around one or the other sometimes, and then that becomes their safe zone. But then if you like
expectations,
if you learn how to respond to animals, then you can become the other. So I didn't really spend almost any time around cats until I was like 8 or 9, I think. And then I got scratched. And then I didn't really spend a lot of time around cats in general. And then I was doing a lot of pet sitting in my early 20s. And so I ended up living with cats for like 10 days at a time. And I got to know probably 12 different cats over the course of 5 or 6 years, and figured it out. Figured out how cats work. And they're lovely. I think cats are so cool.
Not all cats are the same.
No.
Cats are so very different and individual.
Yeah. And that's true for dogs too. I mean, I feel like overall dogs are a little bit more foolproof, but there are still dogs that you cannot treat like you treat other dogs. So
look, I just put Justin up as a little screenshot from our chat. So now we can say that Justin was on the show this week.
There he is.
There he was.
Aaron Lieberman's website doesn't say when the election is, which is funny.
Let's see. Arizona gubernatorial election 2022. Thank you, Goroff. You were correct.
It's just funny that, like, I don't know, just odd. Like they put a lot of effort into making his website really pretty.
Yeah. Like, who is this person? Aaron for AZ. Who are you? It is a pretty website. Ooh, there's a video when you open it up, and he's like smiling and talking to people. Look, he's interested. He wants to know what people are doing and help them. Look at that. This website is...
Oh, see, Ballotpedia is helping me now. Aaron Lieberman
good.
declared candidacy August. The primaries August 2nd, 2022.
Okay.
He was a member of the House of Representatives. There you go. That's his deal.
His website says he wants to be the clean energy governor.
Cool.
Which I think is great. I mean, Arizona, clean energy, and you should really be working on your water issues.
There's lots of room for solar panels there.
Yeah. Yeah. I know so many people are moving to the Phoenix area, to Arizona, and it's a great climate, right? Great climate. But after having read some novels, some books, understanding, Cadillac Desert is quite the book, but understanding water, not that I understand them, they're very complicated, but water rights issues, and knowing that there are major droughts coming and water shortages possibly on the way, I can't help but wonder, when people are making their decisions to move to a place, whether they ever think about where their water is going to come from in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
And how's the economy going to be affected? How is stuff going to be affected down the road?
Well, I mean, they're still building cliffside properties in LA. Sure. So it's, or not LA, but Southern California. It's a lot of people aren't thinking about 10 years from now, unfortunately.
And this is part of the problem.
Yeah. Ooh, I like this comment. He must want to govern.
You must. I think Paul's right.
That is talk about English being weird. Gubernatorial. Shut up. Stop. Enough.
Yeah, right. I'm going to be the governor. Let's vote for me in a governor's race. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody
Etymology,
misspoke and they were
everyone.
like,
Let's
no, I meant that.
not
That's
gober.
the
No
word.
fingers. Goober.
Gubern. He must want to gubern. That is a good one.
That's funny.
Paul, I will be stealing that at some point. Thank you. What was I?
Michelle Kelly lived in Arizona for 2 years, had to go back to Pennsylvania. Gaurav Sharma went to ASU. ASU is a good school. ASU's got a lot going for it. I mean, it's beautiful. Arizona is a wonderful, wonderful state. It's got, mountains and trees and snow, and it's got deserty areas, and it's got all the things, which is super awesome. It's not, I just worry about people going to the dry places. I do worry. Okay. Yes, Paul Disney, gubernatorial. It's like the that peanut butter and jelly jar, the goober spread.
Mhm.
Where
Is
it's
that
peanut
what
butter and
Ronald
jelly come
Reagan
together.
called jelly beans? Goobers? Or am I making that up?
I don't know. I haven't heard that.
I think I'm making it up. I know he likes jelly beans, right?
Mhm.
Isn't that a thing?
Who liked jelly beans?
Ronald Reagan?
Yes, he liked jelly beans.
Okay.
Yes. And yeah.
Why do I know that?
Why do we
That's
call
dumb.
goobers boogers?
Why do we teach our children that and not that he ruined the American economy?
He was a huge part of America's decline. That is
He's
his
the reason
legacy.
I can't.
Thinking
no
of-
one in
speaking
my
of legacies.
generation can buy a house. Thanks, Reagan.
Thanks a lot.
Oh my god.
Okay, no, I don't want the gubernator. I want etymology. Etymology. I try to do too many things at the same time. Okay, the origin. Greek, guberman, to steer. Latin, gubernare, steer, govern. Latin, the gubernator. I mean, that was California's governor when Schwarzenegger was governor, right?
Yes.
People
The
had to have called.
gubernator?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the gubernator. I
I
think
never
that's
heard
the
of
best.
that.
The gubernator. Gubernator. Latin, gubernator. And the English added the EL, so gubernatorial. Yeah, so I guess at some point we were like, yeah, gubernator. Let's call it a governor.
Okay.
And we never put the twixt between.
Okay.
I guess, and it's funny since we've grown up with gubernatorial, it's easier to say gubernatorial and you hear governatorial and that doesn't sound right. That
It sounds
work
fine.
as well. It's
It
fine.
sounds fine.
Right? How about
Stop.
governor's election? How's that one?
Yeah.
Yes.
How about THRU? How about that? English instead
Through.
of THROUGH.
OUGH.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about thorough? Can we talk about thorough? Because it's got to go.
You're talking about thorough or thorough?
Thorough. It's just too much. What are we kidding ourselves? Just stop.
Just stop with the words, people.
We also
Stop
have
with the
two
words.
spellings for things. The other day, I spelled catalog the British way, And somebody made fun of me for it. And I was like, it's not my fault. It's English. It's an English spelling. Why do we do it two ways? This is dumb.
Catalog. No,
Catalog.
GUE. Catalog.
Yeah,
GUE.
I did
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
UE.
GUE.
Because just with the G on there, it looks
Oh.
unfinished. It looks wrong. And of course, spell check didn't correct me when I spelled it with a UE.
I don't think I've ever actually put that together that we do use the two spellings. I never really thought about it. I think I probably would always spell it the British English as opposed to American English.
There's also
even though American English is easier. Yeah. That one I go back and forth between.
Yeah, I don't have a preference and I don't remember which is which, but one is technically British and one is and American. And then there's also color.
With COLOUR. That's what yes.
Yeah. It's just I just palette.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just like there's too many. There's too many like homonyms. There's too much. It's the other day I wrote like in an email I wrote bear with me and somebody also was like, yeah, I'll bear with you. And I was like, is it not bear like the animal? And I looked it up and it is.
It is bear like the animal. If you're using bear like nakedness, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That would be a completely different statement.
Oh, cancellation. That's the other one.
1 L or 2 L's.
Is it 1 L or 2 L's? They're both fine.
It's fine. I mean, technically it's a consonant, so you should double the consonant for adding the A and then the extra bit at the end. Technically.
This is the thing is like
not required.
Last summer, as you can imagine, summer 2020, when I was working camp, I was writing that word
Paul
down
Sampson,
a lot.
Bear as in carry. Yes.
Yeah,
yes, that one. I know.
But
spelled like the animal.
But yeah, last summer I was writing the word cancellation a bunch. And then at one point, the CFO wrote cancellation with 1 L. And I was like, I've been spelling it wrong this whole time. And then like I saw somebody else spell it with 2 and I was like, hold on a second.
The only thing I know is that we don't use typewriters really anymore. So just one space after the period.
Yes,
good. Okay.
That is a pet peeve of mine for sure. I'm not trying to be mean, but when somebody says me something like that, I'm like, all right, well, I know I'm deleting. I'm like, all right, I know you're a baby boomer or older.
But I don't like, I'm one of the people who I look at, if people spell loose for lose.
Oh, yes.
That makes me upset.
Yeah.
Because I think you should know the difference between lose and loose. I mean, maybe your finger got stuck on that O too many times, but, I think we need to know the difference. Did you let it loose?
What about choose and
or
chose?
Did you lose? Which ones?
Choose and chose.
What do you mean choose and chose?
Why is it chose and lose? I'm just saying pronunciation makes no sense.
Oh, it's the pronunciations, right? The O, right?
Yeah.
It should be lows. Did you lose the race?
Yeah, because according to that,
the E at the end should
lose. Choose should only have 1 O. If you're gonna do it like lose,
and
then the other one should be choose.
I'm sorry to everyone who has to learn to read and speak English as a second language. I mean, I'm sorry. We grow up with it and it's complicated enough, but geez. Jeez.
Yeah, it's just.
Frumpy B, cinnamon and synonym are more homonym. That's fun.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. Cinnamon and synonym.
Cinnamon and synonym.
Cinnamon and synonym.
Oh my.
That's fun. I like it. I started making some wrong keyboard. I started making some t-shirt designs that I want to mess with.
Let's see
Get your
it.
feedback. Window. Oh wait, no. Cancel. There we go. Now I can share it. But newsletter. You got my message in a
I
bottle.
saw that it exists. Have I opened it? No.
No. Yes, I wrote something. Yeah, so this is like a mock up for a t-shirt that I think might be fun.
Cute. I like it.
Yeah. It's all in your head. And I don't know how to preview on the Canva, but if we go over here, you can see kind of there what it would look like.
That's fun.
Yeah, I don't know if I should change, because I've been thinking we should have an It's All in Your Head t-shirt for a while, but
yeah. Oh yeah, I tried to make a hat and it never happened.
right, because the hat was difficult. But yeah. It's all in it. What is happening with the color? What did I do? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Should I use white? Or I can change it. Would that be too much?
Yeah, I think the black's better.
Yeah. I mean, if it were just a single color print, that would probably be the easiest way to do it because it would just be open space on the print.
Oh, yeah.
And it could just be a single color as opposed to adding a different color. Lightening the body of the text would make it pop more. Yeah. That was what I was wondering about, Frumpy Bee. Whether it should be the brain picture is too realistic, says Hot Rod. That we should need a cartoony brain. Okay, so let's pick a cartoon. I'll find a cartoon brain. We could use that kind of a brain. It's more cartoony. I could find a different cartoon brain.
Yeah, like one that's like black and white, right? It's like a more silhouette-y type.
Dark drop shadow, light text, cartoon brain. Okay. I will find the cartoon brain. Okay, I'll do that. What was the other one that I have? I have another one. Where's my other design? This one's like a
ooh.
Just lots of different
neat.
Lots of different things. Sneakerhead kind of thing. And then that one. I don't know. I was just making things up. Playing.
Science is science.
Science is science, everyone. It's science. Science is science.
That is a true fact.
Science is science. Yeah. Thinking fun t-shirts. I don't know. If anyone has ideas for t-shirt designs. T-shirts that TWIS should have, let me know. Be fun. We should come up with some more fun designs. Dexter's Laboratory. Very. Yeah, I mean, I could add them all and see what sells. You're right. See what works. It could work. It could work. Yeah. Blair, do you need to get to bed between 10 and 11 p.m. like science says?
I do. That was on Wait, Don't Tell Me, I heard this morning.
That means that we talked about it before they talked about
It's
it.
true. I feel like a lot of the time they talk about it first. Because like a lot of good science drops on Thursday and Friday, I feel like.
Yeah.
Not a lot of science drops on Mondays.
No. Yeah. Science and nature are both Thursday, Friday drops.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some that are Wednesday drops, but yeah, really we're looking at kind of like the big drops are Thursday, Friday, and then we have a few more days of stuff that comes out on different journals. Yeah.
Yeah, but so for that reason, a lot of the time they talk about stuff before we do, because if it drops on Thursday or Friday, then they talk about it on Saturday. But that early week stuff, we get to it first.
Yes, we do. You can get in there. Can I YouTube poll pictures? I could do that. I could probably make a YouTube poll tomorrow, probably. Oh, Paul Sampson, thanks. I'm glad you like that kerning absence. I'm not a big designer, but I am learning how to borrow other people's designs. Like, oh, look what this was. No, all art is borrowing.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not taking someone else's designs. I'm using elements.
You're taking inspiration.
Inspiration and elements and remixing. Yes. Oh, Michelle Kelly, 1:06 a.m. That's early. That is early. Okay, Gaurav, you like the community page? It's just a lot of communities for me to manage, so I haven't really spent a lot of time on the YouTube community page, but I definitely can leave a poll there with the images. Yeah, and I think it is underused by many channels because so many channels have either Patreon or Discord or Facebook or, whatever other communities that they're trying to foster. And so it's just really hard to keep up with all the places and all the things unless you have people who are community managers and, there to take care of all that stuff. Yeah. All right. The bedtime peoples. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Another episode of The Science. Justin, we're sorry that you were not here with us. Apparently, Justin is doing some moving of things, and it was a lot.
Good luck to Justin.
Yeah, good luck, Justin, with all the moving. We missed you. We can't wait to get you back on the show. Is there anything else going on? No. Next week is our
TWIS
Giving show. So
there won't be much science. I feel like always the TWIS Giving show is like, uh-oh. Sometimes it's that one. Sometimes it's the week after. Speaking of like dropping stories on Thursdays and Fridays, but
yeah,
I always feel like this time of year is where there's like weird lulls in stories.
There are some conferences in November, and so there can be some big bursts of different material for like a week here or a week there, but it's usually very specialized. And then then there are some lulls. And and then everybody's like, what? Publishing? No. It's the holidays. We're not putting the good stuff over the holidays, except there's always inevitably one really great story like in the week in December when we're not doing a show.
Just save it.
And I just, nope, I don't save it because there's going to be more science the week following. So I just go, and I have to let it go.
Just share it on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, everybody, these are the stories that I would have shared this week. Only if. The science of cooking. Yes, we could talk about the science of cooking next week. We can also talk about Indigenous representation in science next week. Who knows? Who knows what will come to our rundown? But I know that we will be very thankful once again to be able to do the show. All right. Say goodnight, Blair.
Good night, Blair. Say good night, Kiki.
Good night, Kiki. Good night, everyone.
Good
We do hope that
night.
you stay well, stay safe, and maintain your mental health. Take care of yourself. It's a very important thing to do this time of year. All the best to you all. Thank you for joining us again. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.